What's going on, everybody? LK here, back at it again with another video. And today, my thoughts on the Guilty Gear Strive closed beta. So, I played Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the entirety of the beta. I've been taking notes. I played about 150 matches, so I have a lot of playtime. My character, Milia, was not available, so I picked May. I only played May too. During the Verse CPU period, I also played a little Axel and a little Kai and a little Faust, like a little bit of everybody besides Soul. But as far as matches, I exclusively played May. As a disclaimer, so my perspective on this, I do play Guilty Gear. I've been playing Guilty Gear since Exert Sign competitively, right? I studied, quite literally studied XX, Accent Core, and plus R to help with my Exert play, and I found that it helped a lot. So I have a lot of experience in Guilty Gear. I've played for 6 years now. So this is definitely coming from a point of experience if that is something that you care about. So first off, I want to talk about the lobby system. So this is the first major change to the lobby system for about 6 years. The arcade system we're kind of used to is from BBCP. It was actually a really big upgrade at that time because before that it used to be just like 8-man private player lobbies, but then they added this public lobby along with it, which was a really nice change. This lobby, the base is okay. Like I think I see what they're doing, but I think it's still a little incomplete, especially in ways of like how you connect with people. You have to like take out your sword, literally take out your sword by holding square, and you walk up to people who also have their swords out, and you kind of just stand there and wait for the game to connect for you. So you have to actually walk back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until you connect, which makes it kind of hard to connect with people. Later, Arxis started telling people, oh, if you want to connect, make sure you quite literally social distance yourself from the other players so that you can connect with the one player. And there actually was a challenge function that kind of helped, where you could walk up to somebody who had a sword out, you could press X to challenge them, and then that actually worked pretty well. But we only found out about that the last day of the beta. As far as like connecting to people, it actually was pretty rough, not going to lie. The first beta, for about the first hour, I only got 5 games. That was pretty bad. We were kind of memeing about it for a while. After they did some emergency maintenance, it got much easier to connect to people, which was really nice because we had to actually play the game. I played around 150 matches total throughout the whole weekend, so if someone tells you they didn't get a lot of games, maybe that's on them, especially if it was on the second or third wave of the beta. If you only played the first wave at the beginning and got tight and stopped, then I totally understand. I was quite frustrated as well. Again, I only played 5 matches in an hour before they actually ran that maintenance, so it was a pretty bad look. Comparing to Grand Blue Versus, so I played in the Grand Blue Versus beta as well, and there were also connection issues in the beta, and in the Dragon Ball FighterZ open beta, I remember there were connection issues as well, so I'm pretty familiar with this. I'm kind of glad they got it together by wave number 3. I would just like definitely a better way to connect to other players than this kind of footsies you have to play in this lobby. I was not a fan of it. I feel like going to the arcade setup and sitting there is so direct and automatically fixes this crowd problem that the hotel lobby already has. Okay, so let's talk about the UI a little bit. Now, the UI has kind of grown on me actually. I thought it was kind of weird at the start, but playing the game makes it make sense, for lack of a better word. My only main complaint comes from the burst, risk, and profile picture. The avatar, character, portrait, whatever you want to call it. So this thing moves with the life bar, which can be pretty difficult. Like most players, especially because you keep talking about accessibility and helping new players play, most players are not good at looking at these resources that are in other places, and having it move on top of that, I think probably makes it more difficult for people. And on top of that, the risk bar, which is one of the most important things in the game actually, is really small. One of the big complaints I've seen from other people is about the damage. I'll talk about the damage in the game later, but part of the reason, if you know Guilty Gear, that the damage is so high is because of the risk gauge, and the risk gauge builds very fast. The color is pretty, like, obvious. like it stands out. It's like a purple color, but I think it's still too small for something that's so important to the game. Everything else, like the tension gauge, you basically can't, I'm not gonna say can't see it, but it's like obtuse until you get 50 meter, and then it starts shining. There's a little gear that's turning. That thing's kind of nice. The hearts, some people say the heart is not metal enough for them. It actually grew on me, like the hearts and the clock kind of grew on me. The windscreen, I think, actually kind of grew on me over time. The windscreen really grew on me over time. It gasses you up. It says stuff like, oh, you really showed them who's boss, or your movement was really good, or you're good at looking at the opponent's movements, stuff like that. I kind of liked this point. So overall, I thought that the UI was actually okay. The only thing that really bothers me, again, is the character portrait, burst, and risk. A lot of people talk about the combo counter. There's a lot of memes about the combo counter already, and as far as that, it only really looks bad when you get over 10 hits and you quite literally take a 1-frame screenshot. Then I think it looks pretty bad, but in matches it looks fine. It's not easy to get combos over 10 hits too in the game. The thing that actually bothered me is the counter hit slowdown, and I feel like they might change this because in Dragon Ball they totally sped up all those type of slowdowns. The Vanish slowdown, the Smash slowdowns from like using 5H and 2H, they sped all those up because they did slow the game down a lot. It's kind of jarring, and it feels like the heavy counter hits eat your inputs. Like if you try to special cancel, it felt like kind of weird. The counter hits actually vary. So you just saw I used like 2S and got counter hits. It didn't go freeze and turn like that. It only does it on big attacks like that 6H. So it doesn't happen all the time, but I do think it kind of takes you out of the game a little bit. If they sped it up just a pinch, it would be a lot better. So now finally let's talk about the actual game itself. So the first thing I want to talk about are the Gatlings. And I've been thinking about this a lot because this is one of the real common complaints about the game, are the Gatlings and how they change them. The theme seems to be they don't want you to do like punches and kicks, so the light attacks into big combos. But I've been thinking about this a lot, so it seems that the way they set it up, it's mostly universal. There's some character-specific things, like Mei having whiff cancels and stuff like that. It seems like they put everything into target combos because, from my perspective, thinking about it, the base of Guilty Gear's Gatlings is supposed to be weak attacks, heavy attacks. I think it's really easy and accessible, but all the characters have separate Gatling charts. So once you want to take that next step, not only do you have to learn the, let's say, intricacies of your character's Gatling charts, but then when you want to learn how to fight other characters, you have to memorize theirs as well. So I think their goal was to solve that problem and make it more generally universal, like 80%, 90% universal, and then have like small character specific stuff. On top of that, in actual matches of GG, a lot of times people's strings don't actually exceed 3 hits. So for example, a lot of characters do actually use like 2K, 2D quite often, or like close slash into a button quite often, and characters usually only have 1 or 2 jump cancelable normals anyway, so it's like they packaged everything of what they thought most Guilty Gear characters do and applied it to all the characters. Whether or not this is a good thing actually goes to be seen, I think. I would like it if you could go at least in between P and K for a little bit more flexibility. And honestly, I thought the Gatling system already made sense. Like, if you're just like pressing buttons in Strive, it kind of doesn't make sense until you actually sit and test everything, which is what I had to do. When someone tells you, oh, the Gatlings are just from lights to heavies, PKSHD, you just kind of do it. Once you get used to the new system, it makes sense, but I just thought it was a kind of weird change. So next up, I want to talk about the movement some. So if you've been following me on Twitter, you might have seen me say things like, this game reminds me of Mario Sunshine and weird stuff like that. That's because it's kind of true. The movement in this game is really good and crisp on the ground, but since the build I played at Frosty Faustings, they added a new seal to the air dash, which basically adds startup to the air dash. I believe it's 13 frames startup to the air dash, which makes it feel really delayed. If you want a non-meme way of me describing it, it's like Bedman's air dash in in Exerd. It's like Bedman's air dash in Exerd. Despite the delay, the air dash is actually quite strong because you can alter your momentum in many ways. When you press the button, you basically cancel the air dash. So if you don't press the button, you go like flying, kind of slow. It's a normal air dash, but you have the startup, so you're like, oh, this air dash is slow. But if you press a button right away, you'll go flying downwards at a 45-degree angle, and you can change that, and you can use faultless defense, so holding back and 2 buttons, and fall at a different angle even faster. So you can really vary your timing. It's honestly kind of reminiscent of Super Dash. Like as soon as you see that seal, you have to make a bunch of decisions about what to do based off that. You can't really react to it. It's kind of in the person who's air dashing's favor. And in my opinion, if you want to start to get to the point of like what's important in Guilty Gear to me, neutral is like really core in GG, and it seems they want this game to be about neutral. But with the air dash being this way, it really encourages people to jump a lot and use it a lot. And it was kind of frustrating to play against. If I didn't play May, I probably would have disliked it a lot more. As far as saying the game reminds me of Mario Sunshine, it's because the air dash just feels like sludge. Like I play a fast character in Exert. I play Melia, so she is really fast, really smooth. Feels like you're on ice skates. And I already saw in the trailer that she has this same air dash with a seal. So I feel like it might be kind of jarring unless they give her extra moves. I'm really interested in seeing how they handle a movement character like her with an air dash like this. So next, the damage. So this is a really big complaint from people. I actually think the damage is okay. And from playing high-level players from other games, like yesterday I uploaded matches with L.I. Joe, Super Kawaii and Flux. It actually is not that easy to get hits on people. It might be just because, you know, we haven't figured out how to do stuff yet totally, but big combos were not that common. Like a lot of the combos I got were like really small and short and did about like 25-30%. Something that makes sense. The return is potentially really high and like the damage swings are pretty high, but you kind of, for lack of a better term right now, have to earn it as the game is right now. I think once people develop mix-ups and stuff, since it seems that the strongest mix-ups required meter, a lot of combos that people posted, especially day one, relied on meter to get them. But in the corner, you actually get pretty big conversions no matter what, even off jabs. So this we kind of have to see. I want this to kind of be played out a little bit, for lack of a better term. Like, I want to play this for like maybe a month or so and see how it turns out. It could be that the damage is actually too high, but again, like, it seems that you only get it in the corner and it's kind of hard to hit people. Defense is very strong this game. Offense is pretty strong right now too, but I was actually okay with it. I think if it's to like low-level players though, or like beginners, it'll seem crazy high because they're going to be swinging a lot and just like pressing buttons a lot. So if you're also not paying attention to the risk, there's also that to keep in mind. So for now, this is kind of just like a no opinion kind of thing. This is one thing I think I would need more time. So the next thing I want to talk about is the RC system. And the RC system is actually my favorite part of the game right now. So the RC system, there are 4 types of RCs. I think they pretty much solved the issue people had with Exert RCs, which is how the game slows down. So you have purple RC, which is the recovery RC. You have red RC, which is a block stun RC. You have yellow RC, which is your defensive RC. And you have blue RC, which is a neutral RC. If you're near them, there's a clock that will appear on the opponent and they'll slow down. But if you're far away from them, they will not slow down. It's a pretty clean style. You could do stuff like buffer dashes into it and make your character drift, visually drift. You can cancel the startup of roaming cancel with special moves and it cancels it really quickly. We've been calling it fast RC. It's like a secret one. I don't know what that one is yet used for, but it seems to be interesting. The only complaint I have right now is that there doesn't really seem to be a use for blue RC right now, and I kind of want them to make the blue RC cost 25 meter. One thing about the game is even though you build meter pretty quickly, I guess this keeps meter down though, or like the damage down, because if you don't have meter, it's kind of hard to do damage unless you're in the corner. But it felt like if I'm going to use blue RC, I might as well do the purple RC, like do a move and then do purple RC. Some people have thought of using like air dash blue RC as an approach tool, but right now, I think air dash faultless defense cancel is better and costs nothing. So I would like them to kind of work on that. But RC is probably the most interesting part about the game for me right now. So let's talk about offense, defense, and the wall. So offense, because of the Gatling changes, I think I don't want to say it's less freeform. I think it's just feels awkward as someone who's just played for a while. Once you started like structuring stuff, it was pretty good. The main thing I think it's missing is there really needs to be some 25-meter tools for some flexibility. The game feels kind of constrained as it is right now. Like, not a bad game, but constrained. A really good example of this is defense. So there's no IB anymore, but it kind of makes sense because the Gatlings have been put into like Lego blocks, like target combo Lego blocks. So it kind of makes sense. IB might be too strong, seeing as defense is pretty strong right now. FD is still a thing, of course. But the interactions, despite it making sense for the changes that they've made, it does feel a little bit more constrained. Once people find more mix-ups, I think the offense would be a little bit better, but also a lot of these will probably require 50-meter for them to be like legitimate. One thing they did is they added air dash cancels to certain moves, but they picked low attack level moves on purpose. And what I mean by attack level is like weak attacks. So for example, Mei has an air dash cancel on her jump K, but when she does the air dash cancel, you see the seal appear behind her first, and the move doesn't have a lot of blocks on anyway. So it makes for, like, it's not really a 50-50, it's just something you could do. But if you do like jump too heavy RC, you can actually do an air dash jump K or a land low, and it feels like 50-50 timing. So it's like they want you to use resources to have these type of things, which is probably okay with the way the damage is right now. As far as knockdown, most things hard knockdown. Generally the soft knockdowns come from like hitting someone in the air with a move that sends them down, or hitting someone in the air with a move that would hard knockdown. That seems to be it. Some characters' throws also soft knockdown if you don't cancel them. Kai had a special cancelable throw, if I recall correctly, and I didn't check Mei's throw, but when I did Mei's throw, hers gave her a soft knockdown. She has overhead kiss, which is a command grab that she could do, but it felt like you probably could special cancel her throw. Now, a lot of people have also been talking about the wall and how breaking the wall kind of screws with the flow of the game. And, you know, you're set to neutral, you get the positive bonus and meter bonus, but you're basically back in neutral. Well, you build meter really quickly in this game too, and if you break the wall with a super, it acts like a Dragon Ball level 3, and you get a hard knockdown. So you get sent mid-screen, but you get a hard knockdown, so you can actually continue your offense. So you get the bonus, you send them to the wall, and you get at least offense. Probably mix-ups, but at least offense. One of the early complaints about the wall was that when you're hitting them in the corner like that, the wall regenerates HP really slowly, so there could be times where you hit them, you knock them down, you hit them with offense somehow, and then you only get a short combo. And people felt like they were getting punished for this. They're like, oh, like, why am I forced to only do like 5% and then break the wall? But since you have the wall splat, you have actually a lot of time to confirm, and if you have super, you could do the super, you do damage, and then you get your offense / mix-up. So I think that's okay. My main feel about the game though is that despite like the neutral being kind of fun, I don't like the air movement. Again, it feels like sludge, and everything feels kind of more constrained and forced around certain options. It felt like say Blaze Blue was like, it felt like Arxis was really experimenting a lot with that game. And one thing I found really interesting is that when they make characters, they're always like, oh, the characters will be like this is what the character does. But you could always take it a step further with certain tools and like explore certain tools. But it feels like in recent games, starting kind of with Dragon Ball FighterZ, that you are forced, like quite literally forced to play a certain way, and that there's only like one good way to play the character. This game kind of feels that way to me. One of the things he did is that anti-airs are weaker, and this thing would have drove me crazy if I didn't play Mei, because Mei has Vertical Dolphin and helped me out a lot. So it's like they forced a guessing game and an interaction around the air dash because of how much variability there is. So even though there's a lot of neutral, it revolves around jumping and airing a lot. And jumping is always going to be easier for new players in learning how to anti-air properly, but I found it quite frustrating and honestly not that fun. Like if I played like Kai or something, I think I would have gotten annoyed with it really quickly. It also leads me to believe that the character that has the best anti-air is going to be really strong in this game in the future because of how hard it is to do successfully. And it leads to kind of boring neutral sometimes because you just have to wait and like in a spot. Like it's hard to describe this area, but in between two characters, there's a spot you have to wait for where you can't challenge because you don't have an anti-air, so you have no choice but to keep jumping away or like playing that game. It's honestly really not that fun. I never like doing that kind of stuff in fighting games, so I hope they work on this. All in all, I thought the game was okay. It's not a bad game by any means. I just found it really uninspiring, I guess. I don't like games where like it's just about jumping a lot and controlling space in the air. Like the neutral game with GG was pretty fun. I'm not on that team of like, oh my god, there's infinite options in Guilty Gear and you have the freedom to do whatever you want. That's not true. Like it feels true up until a certain level, but once you get to a certain level and you realize like all those little pokes, all those little pieces of movements, they're all individual situations that you could build around and optimize around. You actually see that like the game is not infinite per se, but there is like flexibility in the game, and that's why I feel like this game is lacking. It's like flexibility. You kind of have to just play the game one way, and it's kind of boxed in a little bit, especially in the neutral. Offense and the Gatling system will always kind of be built around constraints. That just makes sense. But it feels like even the neutral is forcing you to play a certain way, and that is the part that I don't find very fun. I kept finding more responses and things like that, which for me that's like the fun part of fighting games, is researching these things, figuring these things out. But the overall game is like not really inspiring, and to be honest, if this is what they released tomorrow, I probably would not play it very seriously for very long. One sentence, too long, didn't watch. It's fun, but it's kind of whack, not gonna lie. Wouldn't play it really as it is right now. They do have a lot of time to upgrade the game, make changes to the game. I did the survey, so hopefully they pay attention to everyone's opinions. I know a lot of people have very strong opinions on this game. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. Like and subscribe if you feel like it, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.